So struggle comes when we become preoccupied with what is trivial. And I'm sure you guys have all had these moments. I know that many people today struggle with this. They will sit and obsess over the most trivial things, giving it so much power over their lives, when in the long run, and a lot of times it's people, people's opinions, people's thoughts, people's actions. Why did that person do this? And they let it consume so much of their energy, so much of their day, until it becomes like overpowering in their lives. This speaks, if you find yourself like this, like a yo-yo constantly going up and down, for example, you're constantly like at the mercy of that which is outside of you, people's actions or what people do, and you're constantly like, you're just like up and down, up and down, up and down. That means you're easily affected and you're by what is around you, and you're so attached to this world. So struggle comes when we become occupied with what is trivial and insignificant, and when we minimize or even abandon that which is significant, which is not to say that our lives are not significant, not to say, and this is like the biggest misconception, but there's in comparison to the next, there's a lot of things that are trivial that we should not be focusing on, that we should not be giving so much of our energy to. So Ibn Ata'Allah Iskandari, rahimahullah, he says it very directly, and I'm gonna say it to you as he says it, even though it might come off a little harsh, but I'm gonna give you a perspective of why he would say it this way. Okay, so Ibn Ata'Allah, rahimahullah, he says, if you were dignified, then you would be occupied with the dignified. Okay, and whoever occupies himself with the trivial and leaves that which is important, we regard him to be a fool. Sounds harsh, right? Sounds direct and harsh. And you might be like, wait a minute, like, am I not dignified, right? But I want you to think about it, or am I a fool for focusing on what's trivial? Does that make me foolish? Well, I want you to think about it this way. If you're working on, let's say, a school project or a work project, every project that you work on has specific requirements. The teacher sets specific requirements, or your boss sets specific requirements, right? And for it to be accepted, for you to get an A, it has specific requirements. Let's say you're working on a project and your teacher says, well, to get an A, these are the requirements you have to fulfill. Okay, make sure that this project has this, you make sure you complete that, make sure you submit this, right, with the project. And then you have a partner who's working with you on the project, and they keep focusing on the stupidest, most trivial things that have nothing to do with the requirements. What would you say to that person? Would you think that he's a fool to be wasting your time and his energy to be focusing on all these aspects of the project that the teacher's not going to even look at, that the teacher's not going to even ask about, that the teacher's not going to even grade on, while neglecting what will be graded on? Wouldn't you say that's foolish? When you have this situation where you have specific requirements, you're going to start getting frustrated. You'll be like, can we please focus on what's on hand? Can we please focus? Can we please focus? If you're on vacation and someone keeps bringing in issues that have to do with back home, or things that are not that keeping you from maximizing your vacation, aren't you going to say something? Can we, like, people table their arguments on vacation? They're like, come on, this is not even important right now compared to, like, it's not letting us maximize. So we do understand this concept that when you fixate on what is trivial, it really does take away from your ability to be present with what is important. This is understood in relationships. This is understood at work. This is understood at school. If in your classrooms, you're sitting there focusing on everything else but the lecture, right? So you understand the concept of giving your energy to what is significant. And so one of the things we always have to ask ourselves is, do we prioritize the requirements of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?